Right, you guys, so it is meal prep time. And I'm just going to do something really quick. So you guys, I can, here we go. Okay. I can give you the links to these things. They were on our newsletter. I don't know how many people have been on the newsletter list, but that's where I'm letting you know like different ingredients and then these pairings. And so okay, so someone asked about the wines being organic. That is a great question. I did look at this one and it is vegan and organic, but we are now going to move away from beer and wine. Well, we're not completely. If you're having some, cheers. I'm going to have a little sip. This is the kombucha beer, which is lovely. Okay, so now it's time to talk meal prepping. So what I did to get us going was, first off, I'm just going to be honest with you. So I did not know until this morning what else I was going to meal prep for you guys during this class. But that's actually really important because it was by design. So I knew, I know that you are enjoying cooking with me. And so that's why I just gave you a very general list of things to have ready to make your mason jar salad. How many people are going to be making mason jar salads with me? Just say hello or raise your hand somewhere in the chat and let me know. Are you making a mason jar salad with me today? Anybody? Later. Okay, that's fair. Okay, that's cool. All right. And then somebody is going to. Okay, cool. So I'm going to start with the mason jar salad. And then I'm going to start talking you through some things that I got ready for the week so that you can understand there is, excuse me, sort of a rhyme and a reason and a formula to meal prepping. But I think sometimes we get way too caught up on the black and white and doing it right or wrong. And gray areas can be really amazing. And they give us a lot of flexibility to work with our real life. So I'm going to show you the gray area in my house today. And because I've changed the way I've been grocery shopping due to the stay at home. I have something in my throat. Cooking is a spectator sport. Thank you, Donna. Yeah, I'm with you. Someone has their, Christine has her jars, but doesn't know the ingredients. Okay, so we're going to talk through it. So everybody, if you have your mason jar, grab one. And I had mentioned in the ingredient list to make sure that you have a wide mouth mason jar. So let me show you the opposite of this. Oh, that one's wide too. I have lots of wide ones. And it's a quart. It's a big one. Here's one that has the narrow. This is very hard to get anything in. That's why you want a wide mouth. But also because when you're serving it, you want to be able to get all the good stuff out of it. And so you really do want a wide mouth. And I go for a nice big jar. So the anatomy of a mason jar salad is from my book, Vegan Meal Prep. And what you're trying to think about, so when you make these mason jar salads, they actually can last for, believe it or not, 4 or 5 days. They truly can. So on the weekend, when you're prepping food, getting things together, you could make 4 or 5 mason jar salads and just have them lined up in your refrigerator, ready to roll when you want it. And the art behind this is to make sure that all the vegetables that you want to still be crisp are crisp, but also to play around with some of the vegetables or additions that could start to meld with some of the other flavors we put in here. So I know a lot of you were here last week for the umami class, and I know some of you ended up making your own fruit infused vinegar as a result of last week's class. Will you let me know in the chat if you did? I know that one person did dried cherries and apple cider vinegar, which I think sounds amazing. Oh, good, Erin, you did it too. Cool. Oh, someone, Lila did it with cranberries. And remember, I did it last week. What did I use with you guys? Oh, I did currants and balsamic vinegar. Balsamic and cranberries, mango, fantastic idea. Okay, good. I'm so glad you guys like that. And I don't know if you saw later, I think I posted it a couple places online. I actually took that entire thing of the currant balsamic vinegar. I let it infuse for about 3 days. I poured all of it over a block of tofu that I had frozen and then thawed and then pressed. And I marinated the tofu all day in the currant infused balsamic. Then I drained that, air fried the tofu, but took the rest of the currants and the rest of the vinegar that was left and stir fried cauliflower and red peppers. And it was absolutely amazing. Thank you, Allison, for letting people know how to get to my newsletter. If you go to my website, jlgoesvegan.com, you should see an opportunity to sign up for the newsletter. So back to those infused vinegars. The reason I'm bringing it up is because it's kind of a fun way for you to create some flavor in this mason jar salad. So I'm going to move this down a little bit so you can see what I've got going here. So here's how I start a mason jar salad. We want our dressing on the bottom first. And the reason is the dressing's going to go on the bottom. And at the end, we're putting our lettuce up here. And the reason is that dressing will never touch the lettuce. So you're still going to have crisp, leafy, yummy greens when it's salad time. But there are some fun things that you can do with your dressing. I have a true confession. In my refrigerator, I never have salad dressing, ever. I just don't have salad dressing. And it's funny, whenever I'll post a salad online and people are like, what's your dressing? And I'm like, I don't use dressing. I use a lot of vinegars. Umami, which we talked about next week. I want to bring out that yummy, savory flavor. And so I'll just do things like rice vinegar and a little soy sauce. Maybe I'll take a little vegan mayo and whisk it with something, but that's pretty rare because you're going to see some flavor that I'm about to put together. So I have chopped dates. Why dates? Because it's the only thing I had right now. So I'm just going to say, I mentioned that I've changed the way that I've been grocery shopping. You know, I just feel like I have food in my pantry. I'm getting produce delivered on Mondays from a local place called Farm to Fork. And I know that other people are essential and they've been working and then they get to the grocery store and they're having a hard time finding food. So I'm just trying to find this balance of cooking from my home with what I have and using the fresh produce I get. And so I'm not buying things like dried fruit right now just because I just figure maybe somebody else needs it. So, you know, I mean, I can do that right now. I don't know how long all the food's going to last, but anyway, I have chopped dates. So I'm going to put these chopped dates in the bottom of my jar. Then I'm not going to use salt for this. I wanted to kind of go Asian inspired. So I'm going to use dulse flakes. We talked a little bit last week about seaweed. So this is a dried seaweed that a lot of times people will use this when they're making beans. Like if you're going to make beans that are going to have sort of an Asian influence, Asian flavor, a seaweed is a great way to add some natural sodium flavor and sodium to it. So I'm going to, because I'm going to add tempeh to my salad. That's why I was kind of thinking with Asian influence. So I'm going to take these dulse flakes and I'm going to put these on top of my chopped dates. Then I'm going to take brown rice vinegar and I'm going to pour this over my dates and my dulse flakes. So now imagine if I'm not going to have my salad for 3 days, let's say I'm going to have my salad on Tuesday or Wednesday for lunch. These dates are just going to be plumping up in this brown rice vinegar for a couple of days, just getting so much incredible flavor. And then I'm pulling in with the dulse flakes, sweet, salty, and then this umami, this the vinegar. But then I'm going to add some chopped walnuts. Now that might sound weird to you because you're like, no, I want my walnuts to be crisp and crunchy when I eat them. I want them to swim in this because I think that's going to add such a fun texture and something that you don't necessarily expect. Because what I'm trying to do is to not just have what some people might think is a boring salad. I want to dump this salad upside down. If I were going to the park, like Jeff's idea, wasn't that brilliant? Let's take our mason jar salads and like all sit 6 feet apart somewhere at a park. That would be so cool. But when I'm working and going to my office, I take this, I'll show you when I'm done actually, just so you can see how cool it works. But anyway, so I've got my walnuts, but you may not be able to tell. They're not all submerged. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Then I start adding some of my chopped veggies. So again, they're going to start to touch some of the dressing, and I don't care because I think that's going to be amazing. So I chopped up some radish and some carrots. So let me get that in there. So you're going to start to see the layers, and you can see that they're kind of sitting up on top of the dressing. Then I'm going to add scallions. I absolutely love scallions, but I want them a little bit away because I do want that sort of crunch you get from a green onion. So I'm putting that on top of my denser radish and my carrots. Then I'm going to add my protein. So I had suggested to you guys, use canned beans or cooked beans, use tofu, use tempeh. So you could use, I mean, well, I mean, you could put edamame in it. So I air fried some tempeh today. I air fried it with a little bit of just a drizzle of peanut oil and some soy sauce. And I just air fried it. When I air fry tempeh, I usually do it on 330 for about 12 to 15 minutes. So this is a whole block of tempeh, and I don't need a whole block of tempeh in my salad. So now I'm going to move this down a little bit so you can see. So what I'm going to do is I usually take probably like 4 or 5 pieces because I love it. So I'm actually going to do 5. And then I just kind of chop it up and crumble it. So again, I just air fried it. You guys, I didn't even marinate this tempeh. I just put a little bit of, like I said, a little peanut oil, not a lot, just a little drizzle. And I'm doing this because I want it to be easy to eat when I dump my salad and easy to come out of the jar. So I'm just kind of crumbling this. So it's got a really nice texture. And then I'm just going to put the tempeh right on top of these veggies. And then the final thing we do, what I normally do, I can easily get, if I use romaine, I can easily get an entire head of romaine in here. And sometimes I get 2 heads because I'm ridiculous, but I'm trying to save I don't know what my produce is going to be tomorrow. So I'm like really stingy with my lettuce right now. But anyway, what I did was chopped up some fresh cilantro actually and some romaine. So again, these are going to be completely away from the dressing. And I just start to stuff this in. I use my hands and I just start pushing it in until the jar can't take any more. And I want all that yummy cilantro. Okay, and then I put my lid on and there you go, a mason jar salad. This is gonna go in my refrigerator. And again, the dressing's down here. My dates, walnuts, dulse flakes, chopped veggies, air fried tempeh, and lots of lettuce and cilantro. And I just put this in my refrigerator, and when it's time to eat, I can shake it if I want, but I'll dump it upside down in a bowl. I'm going to pull a bowl out now to remind me, and I'll show you guys before the class is over. And why don't you, if you have questions, start writing them in the chat box now so I can take a look. Any questions? Let's see. Let me start at the top. Can I use balsamic infused dried fruit on the bottom? 100%, Christine. Is that seasoned brown rice vinegar? Nope. It's just organic brown rice vinegar. And I buy my seaweed in bulk. So this is just dulse flakes that I just keep in a jar. I'll put that back while I'm thinking about it. It makes it easier to tidy up when the class is over. Someone thinks it looks good. Yay. Measurement of ingredients. Oh, Linda, have we not met yet? Linda, I hate to measure. The only time I measure ingredients is when I write a book because apparently the publishers expect it. So I did not measure the ingredients at all. Because I really, during these classes, I feel like I'm being a home cook with you guys. I'm not being JL, the culinary instructor or the chef on Sundays with you. I'm like, I'm here eating. I'm going to show you how I'm eating. And let's like just have some yummy food that maybe we haven't made before. So, so I didn't measure anything. If I were a guessing woman, I would say I had 2 tablespoons of the dried fruit, about a tablespoon of chopped walnuts, probably 3 tablespoons of the brown rice vinegar. And then the carrot, it was 1 whole carrot. It was 3 radishes. And the tempeh was about 1/4 of the package, a serving. Well, let's face it, for tempeh in my house, a serving is half the package. So I did leave an extra piece. And then that was 1 small head of romaine lettuce. So I hope that helps. And probably about a 1/4 cup of chopped cilantro because I love it. Okay. So if you don't have an air fryer, do I fry the tempeh on the stove in a pan? Yeah, you can do that, Leona. You know, again, this class was like kind of like, since it's meal prep, it's like take what you have. So if you have a way that you usually make tempeh, when you make it, then you're going to be able to use it in your meal preps. So however you like to make tempeh, if you bake it, baked tempeh is going to be awesome. Steaming it and really not doing much to it is also fine if you can count on the other flavors that you're pulling into it. Or yeah, you can absolutely pan fry it. The very first ingredient was chopped grapes. No, chopped dates, dried dates. And let's see. Okay, I think we have everybody's, oh, I'm sorry, Linda, that I didn't see. I've got a couple different Lindas, so I hope I got to everybody's questions. Okay, so we will later see what that looks like when we put the salad in the bowl, so you can see how much food you get from that. But now I'm going to show you, I'm just going to talk you guys what I did this morning. So this is how I approach meal prep. And I'm actually going to look at my notes to make sure I'm giving you lots of really good information. All right. So meal prepping, if it is new to you, is this idea of cooking in advance and being ready for the week. Now, many of us, and I want you to tell me in the chat if you, do I ever add oil? Yeah, I add oil sometimes, but I like, people who follow me know, like I always joke and say, I have no problem with added oils, but I also want to eat like vegan cupcakes and all the other stuff. So like, I just kind of choose where I use some of that stuff. And so like with salads, I don't tend to use an oil for that, but I would be all for using some avocado. But having said that, I wouldn't probably rush to using avocado fresh and sliced in a mason jar salad, but I do have an avocado dressing that does really well on the bottom. But that would be one that I would tell you, don't have that 5 days from now. Have that in the first couple of days of when you make it. But oil would be totally fine. A little, if you wanted to do like a vinegar and oil dressing and then put that over the fruit, that would be amazing. So a lot of us have been meal prepping for years. We just never called it that, and we didn't kind of see it all the way through. And so what I mean is, for years, I did what I called bulk cooking, B-U-L-K, or batch cooking. How many people here have considered themselves a batch cooker? Like on the weekend, you make a big thing of brown rice or a big thing of beans, and you kind of eat from it all week, right? Every week. Tons of people who do that. So here was what I had discovered from my batch cooking, was that one, because I am lazy. I mean, like, listen, this is my life. Obviously, this is what I do for a living, but even I don't want to spend my life in the kitchen. And so I was really into batch cooking, but a couple things happened. One, my husband wasn't really into it. He kind of felt like it was like, really, brown rice and black beans again. And he wasn't wrong. And I was kind of eating the same thing. I'm like, oh, I'm going to reheat my brown rice. I'm going to reheat my black beans. And so, and then like by day 3 or 4, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need other food ASAP. And so meal prepping is kind of taking that, but prepping it into a meal that's ready to roll, desirable, and doesn't really cause fatigue. But the other thing around meal prepping is that it's an opportunity to make a series of things that you can cook all at once in, like, let's say 90 minutes to 2 hours. And when you're done cooking, you have a variety of meals for the week. So this is a true story. At 12 o'clock my time. Oh, so I don't know who's SM Schwartz. I feel bad that I'm not calling you by your name, but your husband, you can relate to this a lot too. Oh, and Linda Jones, both batch cooks and freezes. Same. And a lot of what we're going to be talking about right now, we can actually freeze as well. But this is, so today at 12, because I went out for a beautiful bike ride. It was so gorgeous today in Colorado Springs. It's looking like it's getting cloudy. But anyway, I get in and I'm like, oh my gosh, my class is in an hour. And it's 12 and I just got out of the shower and I started looking around. And these days, the way I've been batch cooking, and believe it or not, I am meal prepping even while home during the pandemic, because I am working during the day just here. And I might be in workout clothes all day, but I need to eat at 12. And if I don't have food prepared, I'm less likely to eat the foods that align with my health goals, right? And so I want to be prepared. And so my strategy, though, has been this. My produce is coming on Monday. Back in the day, my meal prepping on Saturday or Sunday, I would have gone to the store, had my produce, and that's how I planned my week. So instead, what's happening is I'm meal prepping with left, like the produce that's at the end of the line. It's use it or lose it, man. And then I'll have some meals prepped, not the way I did before. Like, I'm not going to have 15 meals in the refrigerator. We're home, we can cook, right? I just want a few helpful things. But then I'll have fresh produce tomorrow that I can start using to supplement meals and to create new meals, and then do the same thing over the weekend. Now, when I had scheduled this class, it's kind of going off of Colorado land. And I know every state is different right now, you guys, and the news changes all the time. But in our land, what we were told was that we would have stay at home orders until today. And that's true. So starting tomorrow, we are entering a new phase in Colorado, and it's called safer at home. which means that non-essential businesses are able to open back up if they are able to demonstrate and practice social distancing. The point of all of this was weeks ago when I started thinking of a class to do every week, I was like, okay, before everyone goes back to normal life, you've been cooking for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. So maybe you want to like put all of this together to meal prep so that you can keep this great habit that maybe you've really honed over the last several weeks of cooking from home. And of course, now I realize that many of you will still be home tomorrow, including me. I have an office downtown and they haven't set up their safe practices yet. So we're not going to be going back. And I'm sure lots of you, let's see, I wanted to see if anybody else, yeah, so lots of you, some of you are going back and some of you aren't. So my meal prepping today for my week coming up isn't to go to the office and have meals to reheat or to have a meal to reheat because I'm exhausted coming home from the end of the day. It's just to help me along a little bit. So with that in mind, I didn't make huge quantities, but I made some things that I saw that I had available. And I want to show you how I put preps together. So before I start to do that, does that make sense in general, what I'm talking about? That what we're doing is we are going to be, you're essentially designing meals. So you're not just cooking a bean, not just cooking a grain, but also thinking about flavor profiles, how to store it, which I'm going to show you, and how to turn it into a meal. Is that making sense to you? Any questions with that? Okay, thank you, Lori. It's making sense to Lori. I'm going to have a little drink while I'm thanking Lori for that. Okay, thank you guys for letting me know. The other reason a lot of people like to meal prep is it's a way to save money. Not just save money, meaning not running to Chipotle and getting the sofrito burrito or Del Taco and getting the Beyond Taco, but also saving money in the sense of you can buy a lot of foods in bulk, you can buy dry beans, you can buy dry grains, and save money from that perspective as well. So that's one reason. And like I said, it's a great way to stretch your veggies. I've got some veggies that I'm about to show you that I'm prepping. They're not gorgeous, but I'm not looking for gorgeous. I'm looking for a way to add some flavor and some food so that it will be good for me. And then I'm not wasting food, right? So those are some other reasons. And then as I'm going through this, I'm going to show you how I make some decisions with flavors. So let's start with some kale. Kale's a little sad. It's had better days. This is not kale that I would massage with avocado and serve as a salad. I would definitely steam it and add some vinegar or something, and it would be totally fine. And in some ways, that's kind of what I'm about to do. So, oh, someone just ordered a salad book. Cool. So I'm just using a pint jar. I've got my kale down here. Now this is not cooked, okay? So this is raw. So it looks like there's a lot here, but I'm gonna start packing it down, and I'm gonna pack it down with some food that will help when it's time to reheat it. It will cook the kale down, but not to that like kind of mushy steamed leafy green. It's gonna have some life to it because it's not gonna take that long. In a microwave, it's only gonna take 3 to 4 minutes. But the way I like to do it is I have a cooked grain. So if you had batch cooked some mushroom rice, I make it every single week. It's for my book, Vegan Pressure Cooking. It's really just sesame oil, chopped fresh mushrooms. I add brown rice. I add veggie broth. I use it in the Instant Pot cook it on high pressure for 22 minutes. So it's cooked. It's ready to roll. We'll just be reheating this later. I'm going to spoon this on top of my kale. And this is about, I'll be putting in about a half a cup. I tend to, so when I'm doing my meal prepping, that's when I kind of look at portion sizes because it just kind of helps get things into into containers. But that's also basically the only time I really think about portion sizes because I'm not really dieting. But it's just kind of like, okay, at a minimum, I know half a cup of grains and 3/4 or a cup of cooked or canned beans and lots of veggies, and I've got a really good start. And then if I'm hungry, I'll eat some popcorn. If you guys didn't see this week, I accidentally bought a 12.5 pound bag of popcorn seeds, whatever. Okay, so I have some mushroom rice in here. So I have this on the kale. Now I want to start thinking about flavor to make this nice and easy for me when it's reheating time. So I'm going to, again, this mushroom rice has just been seasoned with a little tamari, which is the gluten-free, like a gluten-free soy sauce. It's a little thicker. And I'm just going to add, for some umami and for a little flavor, I'm just going to add a little bit of chipotle powder because it's smoky. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of chili pepper, but I'm going to do that again. So these are just pinches, no measurements. Sorry, just popcorn for life, right? Wait, you guys have to, if I remember, I'll show you the bag. It's like my new baby. Okay, anyway, now what I'm gonna do, because I wanna think through reheating this. Now, for those of you who don't use microwaves, you can dump this entire jar of this prep into a saucepan and reheat it. That's fine. I have a microwave and I have no problem using the microwave. And so I'm just going to ultimately take the lid off of this jar and just put the jar in the microwave. But I'm actually gonna spoon some crushed tomatoes. So this was open already. I didn't do anything with it. We used it earlier in the week. Oh, I think Dave used it for pizza sauce for our pizza on Friday night. And so when I'm meal prepping and putting things together, I'm going through the refrigerator and it's like, let's do this. Let's avoid waste. So now I've added a little bit of these tomatoes. I'm going to add more in just a minute, but now I'm going to add black beans. These are just simple black beans from a can that I opened 2 days ago for a salad for lunch. And so it's just sitting in the refrigerator. It's time to use the beans, but now I'm going to turn them into a warm meal instead of just using them for a salad. So I'm going to put these on top of the rice and the, my dog Harry's going to be so happy because I got beans all over the floor right now. Okay, so then I'm just going to do a little bit more sauce on top. I might as well use it all. And then I'm just going to repeat a little bit of the chipotle, a little bit of the chili powder, and then I'm going to put a pinch of salt on top. And then, where's my lid? Oh, that is hilarious. I think here. So here is a meal prep. I have raw kale, cooked brown rice and mushrooms. I have black beans, and I have crushed tomatoes with chipotle powder and chili powder. And I go like this, and I go like this, and this will go in the refrigerator right next to my mason jar salad. So now I have 2 meals that are prepped. So now I'm gonna prep 2 other meals that kind of have a theme, but they're gonna be slightly different. Any questions? Is it okay to use plastic white lids? Linda, do you mean that that you can buy to put on your jars? Anything that's airtight. What you're really looking for, I use mason jars because I just have them. Like you can use, and I'm going to show you 2 different containers that are not mason jars. Mason jars are not essential for any meal prepping, including the mason jar salad. It just wouldn't be a mason jar salad anymore. But the reason the mason jar salad is ideal for a salad prep is because it's keeping all the food away. And so if you had a different kind of container that could do that, that would be awesome. But I have so many jars because it's how I store my beans and my nuts and seeds and grains, that it's just a great way to just keep reusing the same containers. Is the kale 1 serving or 2? I don't think of kale like that. I don't know. It was like maybe 4 or 5 leaves of kale that I chopped. Okay, Leo, who just said something's not true? Microwave nukes the nutrients of the veggies? No, it doesn't. Michael Greger from nutritionfacts.org has actually done an entire study on it and says that microwaving may be one of the more healthier ways to prepare food. But a reminder to anybody, especially if you're new here, we don't do that here. This is not a health food class. This is a vegan class. And so we're not here to shame anybody or tell anybody that they're eating right or wrong. If you want to eat vegetable oil, it's vegan, go for it. If you eat salt, it's fine. And if you use a microwave, it's fine. And if you have Teflon in your home, it's also fine. We don't judge here. We just want people to eat plants. So let's just get that out of the way and then make it stop. Okay. All right. So now let's move on to the next prep. So true story, back to me coming on back in the house at noon. And I'm like, what am I going to make? And I had some carrots. I had some celery. And I have some potatoes. I mean, I was like, for a while, I couldn't get potatoes at all. And then all of a sudden I got tons of potatoes. And then suddenly I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to eat all the potatoes. So let's see. I'm going to just check on messages, see if I made anyone mad. Okay, so sorry if I made you mad, but I can't help it. I just say what I think. So I decided to try something kind of fun. Most of you probably, when you use split peas to make soup. Is this true? What would you say? What did you put on the black beans to finish off? Oh, just more of the crushed tomatoes. Yeah, I usually make split peas soup with my split peas, but I've been trying to cook through all of the beans. I'm so proud of myself. I think I might be able to rejoin the Rancho Gordo Bean Club. I had to quit at one point because it was just two of us, and I had beans like overflowing from my pantry and didn't think I'd ever be able to cook all of them. So we've been really cooking all the dry beans over the last 6 weeks. But anyway, I saw those split peas, and but I wanted them to have like a kind of a different texture. And last week, I feel like it was last week or the week before with you guys, I feel like I made something with yellow split peas that was kind of like dal, almost like a dip. So I thought, you know what, why don't I use less water when I'm making the split peas, add some veggies in there, and then not mush it up and just like have it, but it's going to be kind of mushy, right? I mean, split peas they're going to kind of disintegrate while we're cooking them. So so what I decided to do, I'm going to move some things to make sure you can see it, is I'm going to show you two different ways that I'm going to prep. So here are examples of other containers. This is glass, and it has an airtight lid that when you snap it, and then if you go like this, you can put it in the microwave and steam can escape, right? So it's because some people don't want to use plastic either because of plastic or because they want to have less plastic in the world. So this is a plastic BPA-free lid, but the container is glass. So that's an option. And then this is just straight up plastic. You don't have to at me, it is, but it is BPA-free. And I have had these for well over a year because I got them when I started meal prepping, and I got them when I wrote the book just so I could see how they work. And I wanted you to see ways that you can do some meal, because some people, how many of you just freaked out when you saw this? Some people hate it when their foods touch each other on a plate. You can admit it in here, you're in a safe zone. So you can admit it in the chat if you hate it when your foods touch each other. Okay, Erin loves to mix it up. I love mixing too. Like on holiday meals, when you get all that stuff, I'm like, cranberries, you were made to be with the mashed potato. Get over here now, girl. But yeah, but some people feel very, very strongly about the food not touching. So this may not be appealing to you. So instead of making food touch, I'm going to do something a little special for you right now and show you a way to do a meal prep when they don't touch. So whenever I'm meal prepping, I'm usually trying to think of vegetables, beans, and a grain or a starch. So just kind of like a balanced vegan meal, because then the other things would be fruit, obviously, which we have some fruit in our salad, by the way. And then also bringing in nuts and seeds, and that could be through a peanut sauce or maybe some cashew cream. So there's a way to get, all of your meal groups in, but I really start with sort of veggies, grains, and beans. And so I made some split peas. Are we still on pressure? There we go. And oh, I'm so excited, you guys. I made this recipe up. I'm going to show it to you. I'm so excited. It smells delicious. What I did, because I know you guys don't like it when I say I just made things up, but I swear it's true, I did. But I took a couple carrots, some celery, and a potato, and I sauteed it with, I left everything out because I knew you were going to ask me. I sauteed it with the Butler's chicken seasoning. So it's chicken style seasoning. And so that was sort of my veggie broth. So I've added, there's no added salt because trust me, there's plenty of sodium in this. So I used a teaspoon of this in a quarter cup of water to sort of create a sort of a slurry of a broth. And that's how I sauteed the celery, the potatoes, and the carrots. I just put these things back while I'm talking to you to make kitchen cleanup quicker. Then I was feeling like I might be using a bit of an Italian approach. So I grabbed some herbs de Provence, which you can buy like this, but you can also make your own, which is basically thyme, savory, fennel, rosemary, marjoram, basil, lavender, and tarragon. So you can see where I was kind of having this like Italian flavor profile come in. So that's how I cooked this. Now I'm just gonna show you what it looks like. And I'm really, oh, and I put mushrooms, duh, because mushrooms, I have so many mushrooms. I always make a point to get mushrooms. So this is what it looks like. Doesn't that look yummy? So it is not a soup. And I'm actually going to use a slotted spoon as I prepare this because I've got some broth here. The truth of the matter is, you guys want to talk meal prep? Are you ready? I'm about to blow your mind. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take 2 servings of this to make meal preps. And then do you know what I'm going to do? Someone guess what I'm going to do. Oh, someone asked a great question about the Butler seasoning. Can you guess what I'm going to do? One guess. Blend it, baby. That is right. Julie, I am going to, or no, it's not, it's Jen. I'm going to take the rest of this and I'm just gonna get out my immersion blender and turn it into split pea soup. So now I will have 3 distinct meals with this same batch of split peas, mushrooms, celery, and potatoes and carrots that will be 2 different meals, and then it's gonna be split pea soup. Yay, immersion blender. I might even do that for you guys if I get done in time. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. So because I was thinking about sort of Italian style, I had a few zucchini pieces left from this week. I spiralized some this week and made like a Alfredo style tofu tomato sauce, and I tossed it in zucchini zoodles instead of spaghetti. So I just had bits and pieces of the zucchini left. So I drizzled just a teeny tiny, I'm talking a smidge, y'all, of chili pepper balsamic glaze. Now, you know I did that because balsamic equals umami, but then I also put red pepper flakes on it. So again, I'm trying to pull together a bit of this Italian style thing, right? So I just put that in the air fryer. You could bake it, you could put it in a pan. So I'm gonna take this yummy zucchini and put it in one of the containers. Then, because again, I was going sort of Italian style, I made some farro, which is a whole grain. I used this. I made it in the Instant Pot. I did it for about 15 minutes on high pressure. So now I'm gonna add this grain, cooked farro, here. And then I'm going to spoon in some of these potatoes and peas. And I don't want the broth in here because I want to have a nice, I'm gonna do a little bit more. That broth I'm gonna use to turn this into soup, right? So now I go like this, and here's one of my meal preps. So one of the reasons a container like this is great is if you're doing this for your family, or if you want to have 4 or 5 meals for the week, imagine putting this in your refrigerator. You can stack 4 of these or 5 of these right on top of each other, and they slide into the refrigerator perfectly. They don't take up that much space. They're also great for the freezer because of the amount of space they take. So there's one meal prep right here. So that's one way I can enjoy this. Then I had a second batch of kale that I got this week. This is the Lasianto, the dinosaur kale. So you can see it's greener, it's crisper, but I like to have my kale not to be too mushy. So what I decided to do with this one is I'm gonna take some of these herbs de Provence and I'm going to sprinkle it over the kale. Here, I'll do it so you can see it. And again, you're probably noticing I'm not adding salt to anything yet because I've added so many different things that I've prepared or add different elements of flavor that I'm gonna wait, and after I reheat this, I'll taste it, and then if I need a little bit, fine, but maybe a splash of soy sauce will do, or maybe a little extra balsamic vinegar. And again, it's not because I'm opposed to salt. What I am opposed to is making a bad decision with how I season foods and then be disappointed when I reheat it and eat it. So this is just a great way for me to make sure that I'm starting off sort of like with a clean palate, and then I can decide how I wanna do that. So I'm gonna add a little of the farro, which I have over here, so you just have to trust me. I'm just gonna put that on top of my kale. And then I'm going to spoon some of the beans and potatoes on top. And then I'm going to put my airtight lid on top. And again, if you have 4 or 5 of these, okay, struggling. Okay, there we go. Now we're snapping. There we go. So now you could stack this up too. This is basically, we just put a hippie bowl together, right? So we could reheat this, and if you wanted to put it in a nice bowl, you could. Or if you're like me, you'll just eat right out of the container. And again, you can put this into a saucepan if you want to reheat it, or you can just put it in the microwave and take the lid off, or you can do this. So now we have zucchini, farro, split pea, potato, veggie thing. Now we have a kale farro zucchini thing, but I added more herbs de Provence, and I had the chili glaze with the zucchini. So the flavor profiles are actually going to be different. So when you're going in to eat these, you're not going to feel like, for those of you who have husbands like me, who are like, what, leftovers again? These will be like 2 different meals. So I think that covered what I wanted to do with the preps. And so again, here's just canned black beans, mushroom rice, kale that's raw with some crushed tomatoes, and then just some chipotle and some chili powder. And then I think in a minute, I'm going to make some soup for you guys. I'll show it to you. But I want to show you how the salad comes out. The first time I did, oh, I need to put this in. Sarah and here, Dave and I are having this with our dinner tonight. The first time I took one of these salads to the office, it was hilarious because they were like, you are such a vegan. Because, I mean, you know, the salad is kind of, you know, and they're right. But then they thought I was going to eat like a bird until they saw me like dump this out upside down. And so I can go like this, shake it up. And then when I start to turn it upside down, here, I'll move this down so you can see. Sometimes it's a little hard for it to come out, but look how the dressing is starting to come out because I shook it up. But the lettuce is still nice and crisp. There's my cilantro. There's all the good stuff on top. And then I'm going to grab this to get all the good stuff. Remember, those are dulse flakes, walnuts, some dates, dried dates that we had. And now, look at that gorgeous salad. That is not a boring vegan salad, is it? Look at that beautiful tempeh, all of that bright color. And so that's a meal. Like you had a meal in here, am I right? So what questions do you have? Prep containers, meal prep containers. People are asking about farro, Stephanie. She was asking about how to pronounce farro. I could be doing it wrong. I'm just a simple girl from Iowa. All right, so I don't think I can go back through all of these. So people were asking about, start asking questions now and I can see them again. So containers to freeze in. Okay, so actually these are fantastic. This is the glass container. These are great and they also don't take up that much space. Now you may have noticed I don't have a big kitchen and I have one of those drawer freezers that pull out. So I don't have a lot of room there. Downstairs, and I live in a condo, so in my garage, I have one of those small deep freezes that I got at Lowe's. So it's probably like this wide and probably this tall. I have tons of meal preps down there, which is why, like I was saying, that I'm kind of like holding back when I go grocery shopping. I'm like, I got food in the freezer. I'm fine. And so I like the glass. I will use the mason jar for some things. In fact, 3 classes ago, when we did the vegan pizza, I had made a tofu tomato sauce. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I'd put it on just a little mini pizza. So in small jars, I froze it. And then I just thawed it out this week. And that's what I made on my zoodles. And so it froze absolutely fine. So yeah, so someone asked, can you freeze in mason jars? But I'm just really careful with how I thaw. So I just set it on the counter until I could see that it was starting to thaw out a little bit. And then I put it in the refrigerator. And definitely things that aren't liquid, like I put flaxseed, chia seeds, walnuts, pecans. I just fill up mason jars full and put nuts and seeds in the freezer with that. And then honestly, you know, so people were asking about these containers. Truthfully, when I started writing the book Vegan Meal Prep, I wasn't really a meal prepper at that point. I basically learned how to do it when I was writing the book. So I just went onto Amazon and started searching for meal prep containers. And then I just started searching for the things I was looking for. Like I wanted good reviews. I wanted a price point to be reasonable. I wanted, if I were going to use the plastic, because I did want to use that because I knew some people would, I wanted to make sure that it would be easy for people to get the BPA free and the plastic that was really standing up and that the reviews were saying that. So that it wasn't like I was putting plastic back out into the world because it falls apart after 2 uses. Like I said, I've got a big bin full of meal prep containers that I've had for like 2 years now. Okay, so I feel like there were a couple other things I wanted to tell you about this, but this might be the closest we've ever been to ending it too. So what I hope you noticed as I was putting these meals together also, oh, and then I'll make the split pea soup for you guys, was that I played around with flavor. And so this goes back to those of us who live with people who consider our bulk or batch cooking leftovers, is if you start to prep them into meals that are ready and then change the flavor profile up, then that is a great way to kind of like not get that fatigue with using the same food over. And it just reminds you, like I have my spices all around me. I think you can see over here, and then I'll just show you over here on this wall. I have a whole wall of spices here, and then behind me, I have my spices. And the reason I put them out was because I used to never use more than like 3 or 4 spices, and they were the first ones that I could grab. And so I realized if I started to actually use them, then I might start to experiment with different flavors. So I highly recommend that. Oh, you know what? Someone wanted to know about the chili balsamic. Somebody in the Colorado Springs Vegan Cooking Academy gave this to me as a gift because I think it's from Italy. It's called crema de balsamica pecorino, chili pepper balsamic glaze. It was a gift. And she was like, because you talk about umami all the time, I brought this for you. So I'm sorry, I can't tell you where to get it. But you know what I will do? I always, when this is over, I put the recording up on my website so people can view it later. And then I try to have links there. And so I will try to remember to see if I can find a place locally to source that. Okay, so I'm gonna blend the split pea soup really quick. I mean, I didn't make split pea soup, but I'm about to turn it into split pea soup. We'll see how it goes. And if my dog were out here right now, he would start barking like crazy because he hates appliances. What, he did not get the right family, did he? Because I basically live for appliances. Let's see. Yeah, this has been a little tricky lately, so I gotta make sure this is in nice and, there we go. This is the Melty hand blend. I like it a lot, but sometimes I have to really work to engage it. So I'm just gonna, here, I'll show you what I'm about to do. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna put it on turbo and try to make some split pea soup. Oh my God, that's gonna be so good. All right, let's see. Might have some split peas all over me. Let's just see. And then spoon a little bit of this here. Oh, and we got some chunks of potato, which is always a yummy thing, and those mushrooms. So there we go. We just made split pea soup with our meal prep. Sorry, that's a little wacky. So didn't plan that. Surprise. Okay, so this is the time where I can take your questions, and I know you have some questions about, I'm gonna give you a link to my upcoming class. Next week, you guys voted last week, and you chose sauces, dips, and spreads. So that's what we're gonna be doing. Do you do labels? Oh, you know, I don't do labels, but what I do is I always have a couple Sharpies in my kitchen, and I write on my jars, or I write on top of a container, and I write what it is, because I've had some unfortunate surprises. There was a time where I thought I was gonna have some like cauliflower chutney, and it ended up being applesauce. Yikes. Okay, so masking tape is a great idea. Someone asked twice, so I appreciate you being insistent. How do I keep the Butler chicken seasoning, vegan, you guys, from clumping together? Because it does, it gets hard. I dumped it all and put it in my Vitamix and blended it, and then I transferred it to a mason jar. And so that's how I kept it from doing that. And can you tell us how to make the split pea soup with the pressure cooker? So I did, I think I ended up doing 15 minutes. And I tried to measure. I did a cup of dry split peas. I did 2 cups of water. And then I did, I think, 2 carrots, 2 stalks of celery, and 1 small potato. And then probably close to a tablespoon of herbs de Provence. And then the saute was in the chicken style seasoning from Butler Foods. So that was kind of the salt influence. So that was kind of the measurement. I did it high pressure for 15 minutes with a natural release. Someone's asking about tofu. That's a good question. Hold on. So I wanted to give you a link for those of you in Colorado Springs, if you want to support Jeff and Local Relic. And then, oh, someone wants to see the popcorn. You guys are awesome. Okay, I don't know why this one, some of my links work and some don't. I'm going to do this. I do this every week. If you are so inclined to drop a tip, I'm going to keep doing these classes for free, obviously, because I want to support folks. But I'm not too humble to take a tip. And then here's vegan meal prep. If you want to get that from Amazon, let me get my popcorn. Could this be more ridiculous? Seriously, I didn't know I was ordering 12.5 pounds, which says a lot about me and my online ordering. Like, I ordered it, I was like, well, that seems reasonable. I mean, there's a pandemic and maybe there's a shortage of popcorn. And so I'll probably have a bigger bag than I normally get. and I paid like $11 for it. I know, don't judge. And this box came, and like the guy from Amazon like carried it up the stairs. I was like, what did I order? And then I opened it, and so I put a thing on my social media this week and said it's a baby. So yeah, I have 12.5 pounds of popcorn. No regrets. Okay. What else? Yeah, it is huge, right? I haven't even opened it. I still had enough popcorn in my other bag, but I did use it last night because I feel morally obligated to eat all of the popcorn for like the next century. Some of these questions are cracking me up. So I love that I have Alice or Alyssa is laughing. Let's have a little drink of beer, and I'm going to ask some of these questions because some of them are like not related to what we're talking about at all, and I'm so fine with that. We're just hanging out on Sunday. This is what we do. For those of you watching on YouTube later, sorry, not sorry. Okay, so one of the questions was, how much is the Zoom Pro price? And it is currently, so that I can have over 100 people in the classes, I'm paying $69 a month. So it gives me webinar opportunity as well. So, so I signed up for that as soon as I did my first class, and 300 people tried to come, and I only had room for 100. And that's why now I have Zoom Pro. Somebody else asked about tofu. So you can do the old school way of pressing. So just so you know, someone asked about pressing tofu. We did not make tofu today, but it's a good question. So I have a tofu press. I got this, this is actually my second one, but I've been doing this, you know, I've been vegetarian for over 18 years and vegan for 10. So that's a lot of tofu. But I got this because I was doing probably what lots of people are doing. You get your tofu out, and then you start like putting pots and pans on, and you're doing all the things trying to get all the liquid out. When you put a block of tofu in here, you then put this on top. And so it's going to be sitting about right here, right on top of the tofu. Then you put this spring in. Then you take this guy and you go like this. And as soon as you flip it over, all of the liquid comes out. And you're done. You just pressed it. But what I love even more is then I'll take it out and I'll cube it and I'll put a marinade in it. And I put enough marinade to go all the way up here so that my tofu is swimming in it. And then this is an airtight lid. So I can put my tofu in the refrigerator to marinate for days if I want to. And I do this with tempeh too. I use this for tempeh too. But then I can go like this and it sits upside down and it doesn't leak. So over a series of a couple of hours, and overnight, the next day, I can keep going like this so that I have perfectly marinated tofu afterwards. So this is called a Tofu X Press. So there are several tofu presses you can buy on Amazon. I've tried 3 of them. And so one is called Tofuture, which is a nice idea, but I don't like it. Sorry if you're from Tofuture and you see this, but I don't. It's too cumbersome. It's plastic and it has these bands, elastic bands that you kind of pull over. So I find I'm fighting with it too much. I do have it at my cooking academy and we do use it there. There's another one called the Tofu Easy Press, which is basically 2 pieces of some kind of plastic. And then it's got these, like, what do you call them? The screws that go, there's a word, wing. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? What do you call it? I'm not mechanically inclined. It's these things that wing nuts. And so you screw them until the liquid starts coming out, and then you just sort of set it in your sink sideways, and then the liquid comes out. It works perfectly fine, but I don't know, the bells and whistles on this one, it's like boom, boom, boom. And my husband uses it all the time. He loves it too. So, okay, so wing nuts, you guys are so great for that. A little pricey, but worth it. Was that for the Tofu Express? It's true. It's $40. Thank you for whoever donated $10. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. The Tofu Express is about, like I said, over $40, but true story, like I said, I've been eating this way for a long time. This is my second one, and the first one made it through my first 3 books that I wrote. So I feel like I give it extra use, and I don't think that normal use it would have broken, to be fair. So, okay. And I know Alyssa said she has a Tofuture when you're doing that and you're just like going, oh, I'm trying to get this plastic thing over on this one. It is a good workout though. So any final questions about meal prepping? And I'm just going to go over my notes to make sure that I told you what I wanted. Okay, I am going to, I have 85 of you, so the majority of you stuck around. I am going to kind of summarize a little bit for you. When you start meal prepping, if this is not how you normally cook, don't feel like you have to go and meal prep all the things and have your refrigerator filled with just like all of these meals. Start at whatever pace feels right for you. And because you also don't want your food to go to waste, right? So just set realistic goals. And this is the number one thing I tell my private clients. I do this in my cooking classes when I'm talking to people about meal prepping is we get super excited, right? We're like, I'm going to change the way I eat for the rest of my life. I like to meal prep and I will do it forever now. And then you go and you prep 21 meals for the next 7 days. Forgetting, well, these days we are home actually for 21 meals probably. But in the old days, we were like, working or having board meetings or going to a kid's soccer game. And so what I tell people is open up your calendar and look to see when you're actually going to need your meals. And once you realize that, you may realize that you only need to prep 9 meals this week. And when I say 9 meals, I'm not talking about 9 different things to make and prep. I'm talking sitting down for 9, like maybe there are 3 of you and you're each going to have 3 dinners and you're done. So plan ahead and look at your schedule and determine how many meals do you really need to get prepped this week. And maybe it's breakfast. And we didn't talk about breakfast. One of my favorite things to do is overnight oats in a mason jar. I just put rolled oats, dry, not cooked, in a jar. I put a half a cup in. I put a cup of a plant milk or maybe even some of my homemade soy yogurt. I'll add some, sometimes some frozen fruit, sometimes some dried fruit, maybe a pinch of ginger, some chia seeds. And I set this in the refrigerator and I will make enough for breakfast for every single day of the week because when they sit overnight, the next day you stir it and you can eat them because you're using the rolled oats. I tried it with still cut oats once. It needed to sit in the refrigerator for about 4 days before it got the way I wanted it. But if you don't like to eat cold oats, you just take this lid off, you put it in the microwave and you just nuke it for 2 minutes. And now you have cooked oats that you prepared on Sunday, but you're eating it on Thursday. So you can even prep your breakfast. And then, like I said, start with thinking of sort of like beans or seitan or tofu and tempeh, some veggies and a grain, and build your meals that way. Because then even if those are prepared, you might have some other things, like maybe you got some zucchini from your local CSA and you're like, well, this meal prep is ready, but now I'm going to just quickly saute this with some chili oil and some red pepper flakes and add to it and make it bulk the meal up a little bit. And then of course, the art of storage is simply getting airtight containers, ideally something that can last the duration so you're not creating waste by using the containers in the world, and to label, as we were talking about with my markers, you can put labels on. Someone had mentioned duct tape. I also usually have a roll of tape in here, and I'll just put a piece on and I'll just kind of write on it if I'm not using a mason jar. And the way you can cook your leftover or your meal preps is you can microwave them, you can put them in the saucepan, and do it on the stove. And depending on some of the things that you've prepped, you could potentially put it in your air fryer. So those are lots of options there too. So let's see. Pat, thank you. That is so sweet of you. I appreciate the kind words, you guys. Salads, can you suggest good sprouting jars? That's a really good question. I have a sprouting lid. It's like green and it fits on an air or on a mason jar and it's got holes in it. And I think I did that with mung beans once, but I'm not really great at it. Field to Fork is the local veggie place. It's called Farm to Fork. Farm, F-A-R-M to Fork. And I get my deliveries on Mondays and I've really been loving, that's in Colorado Springs, you guys, sorry. How long can you marinate tofu? So that's a great question. So think of tofu as beans. And if you've ever opened up a can of beans and put the leftovers in the refrigerator and forgot about them, you know how quickly they turn, right? Like you want to eat beans once you've opened up a can within probably 3 to 5 days, which is why, by the way, I freeze almost all my tofu when I come get it from the store. And I just pull it out as I need it just to make sure I never go past that date. But once I've opened a package of tofu, I'm going to commit to eating it in no less than 5 days and probably closer to 3. But I do love to marinate my tofu for several days in advance because I just find it so flavorful. And I do that with my tempeh. The other thing I do with my tempeh is I have these silicone resealable bags. I have a friend, Kat. I don't know if she's watching today. It makes her she hates it when I leave my cupboard doors open. I'm like, wait, aren't we all just hanging out in my house right now? Anyway, this is called Rezip. I got these on Amazon. And these are silicone reusable bags. And I have some that are bigger. It's just in use right now. I will take tempeh, cube it, put it in here, and then I pour the marinade over it. This seal is super tight. And then I set it in my refrigerator, but I set this up against the wall of the refrigerator so I don't worry about any leaking just in case. And then over a series of a couple days, I just keep flipping it over like this. And then I go back like this. So after I've done that a couple days, for those of you who steam your tempeh first, which I understand because it's too bitter for some people, or maybe just a little too dense, letting your tempeh marinate for several days, you don't have to steam it. It just makes it so succulent and really rich and creamy. So so getting some kind of like really great silicone resealable bag and then just doing a marinade like that is a really cool thing to do. I always freeze my tofu in the container. Here, I'll show you. I probably have some. Yep, rock solid. I leave it just like this. So if I wanted to have awesome tofu on Monday or Tuesday, I'm going to put this in the refrigerator now, and I'm just going to let it thaw in the refrigerator. And then when I go to drain it and press it, it's because it's become spongy once it thaws out, is there's hardly any liquid left anyway. But then when you let it marinate overnight, it drinks in all of the marinade. It's absolutely insane. So I'm going to put this back while I'm thinking about it. And let's see, are there any other questions? Is it the same amount of time if you've frozen the tofu? Tell me more, Katie. Is what the same amount of time? Like how long you can use your tofu? You know, okay, actually, Katie, that's a good question. Do you mean a video on just like making tempeh, or do you mean like making homemade tempeh? Because you know I make tempeh from dry soybeans. Did you know that? And someone wants my husband to come back. Dave did the pizza class, and he made pretzels this week, and I thought I was going to break the internet from that. Like he literally said, he goes, "Are you hungry? Do you want a snack?" And I'm like upstairs working, and he's down here, and I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds good." And I'm still working, and I'm smelling something. I'm like, "What is happening?" And my I don't know if you can see, we have a loft, so I'm up. Let's see. I don't want to up there. You can't exactly see it. I look over the railing, and these gorgeous pretzels had just come out of the oven because he's pretty good around the kitchen. Okay, so favorite brand of tofu. Honestly, I'm not loyal. Whatever these days, whatever they have, because it's really hard to get at the grocery stores. Okay, so that's a good question. So I didn't do a poll this time, and I don't think I technically can. And I think I've got 82 of you left. So the next class next week is going to be sauces, dips, and spreads. And then in the poll that I had given you last week, the other option was an Instant Pot 2.0 for two reasons. One, that recording didn't work, but I'm not going to repeat myself because most of you are in that class anyway. So it'd probably be like next level instant potting. So things like, you know, a container inside of a container when you're using it, or making soy yogurt, or maybe making tempeh proof, you know, bread proofer, that kind of stuff. Oh, someone does want yogurt and tempeh. So that's an idea, but I am curious. Okay, lots of people, oh, cakes. You know, I haven't loved cakes in the IP, but I have 10 days to 2 weeks to figure out. Maybe I'll do that. Someone was like, wants to do cake in the Instant Pot. But now I'm getting the impression that maybe, I've done tofu once when I did the air fryer class, but I'm just curious. Just say yes or no. If I did a class that was strictly tofu and tempeh, and not like how to make it from scratch, but like how to store it, how to marinate it, different ways to cook it. So, oh, wow, there's a whole lot. Well, okay, boom. I have one no and a resounding yes. Okay, so now, and there's nothing scientific about this at all. The next class is dips and sauces and spreads. So the week after, is it Instant Pot 2.0 or is it tofu and tempeh? And I have no idea how I'm going to decide. So just start saying either I Instant Pot or tofu tempeh. Oh boy. Oh boy. Super much a tie. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Dip, sauces, and spreads this week. I'm going to do Instant Pot the week after, 2.0. And then I'll do tofu tempeh after that. Because I think there will be lots of people in various states who are still going to be doing some form of sheltering in place through May. So does that sound fair, you guys? So next week's is dips, salsas, and spreads. The week after is Instant Pot 2.0. And the week after that is going to be all about tofu and tempeh. So with that, I think I'm going to bring it to an end. Any last questions? Oh, you're welcome. Thank you guys. I love Sundays with you guys. I really do. So if you're having a drink with me, or even if it's some water or some straight up kombucha, cheers to you. Thanks for coming here every week. It's my highlight. You make me wash my hair and wear makeup once a week, whether I want to or not. Can we have a moment about my hair and my hairstylist? I'm not gonna lie, you guys. It's been like 8 weeks. I feel like she gave me a solid haircut. Of course, I am gray, so got that going for me. But I gotta say, so far, I haven't had to wear a hat every day. But anyway, that's irrelevant to today's class. So thank you. You're awesome. I'll see you next week. Sign up on the newsletter, go to my website, and I'll have this in all the usual places, on the meetup, on my website, on Facebook, and in the newsletter. And you guys are great. Appreciate you, and I'll see you soon. Oh, that was sweet. Thank you, Linda. You guys are the best. Okay, closing the meeting. Mwah. See you soon.